Imagine holding a simple coin in your hand, something you've seen countless times before, something you've probably used to pay for a soda, a pack of gum, or tossed into a parking meter without a second thought. It's a US 5-cent coin, a Jefferson nickel from 1988. On the surface, it looks like every other nickel minted that year. Thomas Jefferson stares off with that familiar, calm expression, and Monticello rests firmly on the back, the grand home of one of America's founding fathers. But what if I told you that hidden among the ordinary billions produced, there are a few examples of this coin that are anything but ordinary? What if I told you that a single 1988 nickel could be worth not just 5 cents, not just a few dollars, but anywhere from $55,000 to an astonishing $122,000? Suddenly, this little coin isn't just change anymore, it's a piece of treasure waiting to be discovered. The Jefferson nickel has been around since 1938, designed by Felix Schlag, who won a competition with his sleek, iconic imagery of Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse. For decades, it was one of the most familiar coins in the nation's pockets, and by 1988, it had already become a staple of American life. That year, millions upon millions of nickels poured out of the U.S. Mint facilities, including those in Philadelphia and Denver, while proof versions were struck in San Francisco. With such massive numbers in circulation, it's easy to believe that none of them could be worth more than face value. After all, how could something so common possibly be rare? But in the world of coin collecting, rarity isn't always about how many coins were made. It's about how many survived in pristine condition, how many carry unusual errors, and how many capture collectors' imaginations enough to spark a bidding war at auction. Condition is one of the biggest keys to unlocking extraordinary value. Imagine a 1988 nickel that has never been used, never rubbed against other coins in someone's pocket, never fallen into a jar of change. Imagine it preserved as though it was struck yesterday, the details razor sharp, the surfaces gleaming, untouched by time. Coins like this are graded mint state, and the higher the grade, the more desirable they become. A nickel in mint state 67 or 68 is incredibly rare, because almost all nickels from 1988 entered circulation immediately and picked up marks, scratches, and dings. Those flawless survivors are what collectors fight over, and when they hit the auction block, the price can climb into the tens of thousands. In fact, the best of these have soared as high as $55,000 to $122,000, proving that perfection in such an unexpected place is worth its weight in gold. But condition isn't the only thing that matters. Errors, the quirks of the minting process, can turn a simple coin into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Think of a coin struck slightly off-center, where Jefferson's portrait leans oddly to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. Or a double die error, where the lettering or the date appears duplicated, giving the impression that the coin is echoing itself. Even more dramatic are wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on the wrong kind of metal blank entirely. Imagine a nickel accidentally struck on a dime smaller planchet or even on a copper penny planchet. Suddenly, it's a coin unlike almost any other. Collectors crave these mistakes because they tell the story of the mint's human and mechanical imperfections, and they transform an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. Now, picture the scene at a coin auction. The room is filled with seasoned collectors, dealers, and curious onlookers. The auctioneer holds up a pristine 1988 nickel with a rare error. The bidding starts modestly, a few $100s, then climbs rapidly into the thousands. The energy in the room shifts as bidders realize how special this coin truly is. One bidder raises the paddle confidently, then another counters. The back and forth intensifies, the numbers rising higher and higher. By the time the gavel slams down, the coin has sold for an eye-watering figure, anywhere between $55,000 and $122,000. All of that for a nickel most people would have shrugged off as pocket change. This is the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about owning pieces of metal. It's about the stories they carry, the history they represent, and the thrill of the hunt. The 1988 nickel represents a moment in American history, a late Cold War era when the nation was experiencing rapid change and transition. Jefferson's image on the obverse still stood as a reminder of America's foundation, his legacy tied to democracy and the pursuit of knowledge, while Monticello on the reverse anchored the coin in tradition. To hold a rare example of this coin is to hold a link between everyday life in 1988 and the present day, a connection across time made of copper and nickel. But what makes the story even more engaging is how accessible the search is. Unlike ancient coins locked away in museums, or gold coins that only the wealthy can afford, the Jefferson nickel is a coin that almost everyone has touched at some point. That means the possibility of finding one of these rare treasures is open to anyone. Maybe it's in an old coffee can full of change sitting in your garage. Maybe it's in the pocket of a pair of jeans you haven't worn in years. Maybe it's sitting unnoticed in a cash drawer at a convenience store. The excitement lies in the fact that you never truly know until you look closely. Collectors have spent years combing through nickels, studying every detail, every strike, every surface to find those hidden gems. And while most 1988 nickels are worth no more than 5 cents, it only takes one rare piece to change everything. That potential is what keeps the hunt alive, what keeps people checking their change and peering through magnifying glasses, hoping for that lightning-in-a-bottle moment. The stories of discoveries are almost as exciting as the coins themselves. Imagine a young collector sifting through rolls of nickels from the bank, simply searching for something interesting to add to their collection. They set aside a shiny 1988, noticing that the strike looks sharper than usual. Upon closer inspection, it's virtually flawless, a coin that could grade at the very top of the scale. After submitting it to a grading service, the results confirm it. This is a mint state rarity. When it eventually goes to auction, it brings in a staggering sum, maybe $55,000, maybe as much as $122,000. What started as a simple hobby became a life-changing discovery. Or think about someone inheriting a jar of coins from a relative. They don't think much of it at first. It's just a jar of old nickels and pennies. But curiosity leads them to sort through it, and there among the coins is a 1988 nickel that seems just a little different. It's not until a dealer examines it that the truth comes out. It's an error coin, incredibly rare and incredibly valuable. That ordinary jar of change has suddenly become a family treasure worth more than they ever dreamed. That's why the 1988 nickel holds such fascination. It's not just a coin. It's a symbol of hidden potential, a value where you least expect it. And the fact that some have reached prices between $55,000 and $122,000 makes it one of the most exciting modern coins to talk about. So the next time you're about to hand over a nickel without thinking, pause for a moment. Take a closer look. Check the date. Study the details. Because while most nickels from 1988 will be nothing more than change, there are a few out there that could change your life. And isn't that possibility worth a little extra attention? The Jefferson nickel has been part of American life since 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, it features the stern yet thoughtful face of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his elegant Virginia home, Monticello, on the reverse. For decades, this design has been a symbol of history and tradition carried in pockets across the nation. By the time 1995 rolled around, the design was already deeply ingrained into American culture, and billions of nickels had been produced. That year was no exception. The U.S. Mint struck millions upon millions of these coins in Philadelphia and Denver, while proof versions were created in San Francisco for collectors. So how does a coin so common, so widely distributed, become one of the most sought-after and valuable nickels in existence? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, and the quirks of the minting process that sometimes turn an everyday coin into a treasure. Let's start with condition, because this is one of the biggest factors separating a nickel worth 5 cents from one worth $50,000 or more. Most nickels from 1995 entered circulation almost immediately after being minted. They rattled around in pockets, clinked against other coins in change jars, and slid across counters. All of that daily use left them with scratches, dings, and marks that made them less than perfect. But every so often, a few coins avoid circulation. Maybe they were set aside by someone who liked their shine, maybe they ended up in a mint set, or maybe pure luck kept them untouched. These coins, when graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can achieve high mint state grades, MS67 or higher. And when a coin from 1995 reaches that level of flawless preservation, collectors take notice. That's when the bidding starts to climb, and suddenly you have a coin that sells not for pocket change but for tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, Some of the highest graded examples have stunned auction audiences by selling for amounts ranging between $50,000 and $115,000, proving that even a coin as humble as a nickel can rival the price of luxury cars or even a home. But there's another factor that can make a 1995 nickel extraordinary: minting errors. Errors are like the fingerprints of the minting process, the small mistakes that slip through quality control and end up in circulation. To collectors, these mistakes are pure gold. Imagine a 1995 nickel struck slightly off-center, with Jefferson's portrait skewed toward the edge, leaving part of the coin blank. Or picture a double die error, where the date or lettering appears doubled, giving the coin an eerie, shadowed look. Even more spectacular are wrong planchet errors, where a nickel is accidentally struck on the wrong kind of blank, like a dime or penny planchet, resulting in a coin that is both a nickel and not a nickel at the same time. These error coins are one of a kind, and collectors will pay astronomical prices to own them. If you're lucky enough to discover one, you could be holding a ticket to that $50,000 to $115,000 range, all because of a tiny mistake that turned your coin into a treasure. Picture yourself at an auction hall filled with serious collectors and dealers. The auctioneer brings out a pristine 1995 Jefferson nickel, perhaps one graded MS-68, or maybe one with a rare error. The bidding begins at a modest level, but almost immediately, paddles start rising. 2, 3, for collectors push the price higher. The tension builds with every bid. The coin, once a simple 5-cent piece, now has a room full of people competing for it. When the gavel finally falls, the coin has reached an astonishing price: $50,000, $75,000, maybe even over $100,000. This is the magic of rare coins, the transformation of something ordinary into something extraordinary, simply because of its rarity, condition, and story. Now think about the thrill of the hunt. Unlike rare gold coins or historic artifacts locked away in museums, the 1995 nickel is something that could still be hiding in plain sight. It could be sitting in a jar of change in your kitchen, waiting at the bottom of an old drawer, or resting unnoticed in your grandfather's coin collection. Every time you handle a nickel, you might be holding something that could change your life. That's the excitement that keeps coin collectors searching, examining, and dreaming. Because while most 1995 nickels are just 5-cent coins, the possibility that one might be worth $50,000 to $115,000 is enough to keep anyone hooked. Let's imagine some real scenarios. A young collector, curious and enthusiastic, visits their local bank and buys a few rolls of nickels just to see what's inside. As they sift through them, one coin stands out: a 1995 nickel with an unusual shine, sharper details than the rest. They send it in to be graded, and the results come back. It's one of the highest quality examples ever found. Later, when it hits the auction block, the bidding skyrockets, and the coin sells for an incredible sum, maybe $55,000, maybe even over $100,000. That one lucky find becomes a life-changing moment, all because they decided to look closely or imagine inheriting a box of coins from a relative who collected casually. At first, it looks like a mix of common nickels, pennies, and dimes. But as you sort through them, you spot a 1995 Jefferson nickel that seems slightly unusual. Perhaps it has an error, maybe an off-center strike or a double die. You take it to a dealer and their eyes widen. They confirm it's rare, one of only a handful known. Before you know it, you're standing in an auction hall, watching as your once overlooked coin climbs past $50,000, then $70,000, then into 6 figures. A simple inheritance has turned into a small fortune, hidden in plain sight all along. That's the allure of coins like the 1995 Jefferson nickel. They remind us that treasures aren't always buried deep underground or locked in vaults. Sometimes, they're sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone with curiosity and attention to notice. And the fact that some examples have reached prices between $50,000 and $115,000 makes this coin one of the most exciting and surprising finds in modern U.S. coinage. So the next time you hold a nickel in your hand, especially one minted in 1995, don't be too quick to spend it without looking. Study Jefferson's face, examine Monticello, check the date and the details. Look for sharpness, look for errors, look for anything unusual. Because while most nickels from that year will only ever be worth 5 cents, a rare few could carry a hidden fortune. And wouldn't it be incredible if you were the one to find it? The story of the 1995 Jefferson nickel isn't just about a coin. It's about possibility. It's about how even the most ordinary objects in our daily lives can hide extraordinary secrets. And it's about how history, craftsmanship, and a little bit of luck can turn pocket change into something worth more than you ever imagined. Keep your eyes open because the treasure could already be in your hands. Imagine pulling a coin from your pocket, maybe after buying a cup of coffee or digging through your change drawer, and realizing it's a Jefferson nickel from 2015. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. After all, this is one of the most modern coins you can find, one that millions of people have in their pockets every day. The face of Thomas Jefferson still graces the obverse, his forward-looking gaze a reminder of America's third president. And on the reverse, Monticello stands proudly, an enduring piece of American history. But what if I told you that hidden among the countless 2015 nickels minted across the country, there are some that are anything but ordinary? What if I told you that a single 2015 5-cent coin could be worth not just its face value, but an astounding $42,000 to $92,000? Suddenly, this little coin transforms from spare change into a hidden fortune. The Jefferson nickel has a long history, first introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, its clean design and symbolic imagery made it instantly recognizable and a favorite among collectors. By 2015, the design had been modernized slightly, with a forward-facing Jefferson portrait introduced in 2006, but the spirit of the coin remained the same. Millions of nickels rolled out of the mints in Philadelphia and Denver, while special proof versions were struck in San Francisco. With so many coins in circulation, most people assume they're just everyday money, nothing special at all. But that's where the story gets interesting, because even in such large mintages, some coins stand out in extraordinary ways. What separates a coin worth 5 cents from one worth tens of thousands? Condition, rarity, and errors. Let's start with condition. Most 2015 nickels were handled, circulated, tossed into jars, and used daily. They picked up scratches, marks, and wear almost immediately. But a very small number avoided that fate. Imagine a nickel that has never been spent, never rubbed against other coins, never touched by human hands. Imagine one that left the mint and was immediately preserved, its surfaces glowing, its details sharp enough to cut glass. Coins like this are graded mint state by professional grading services, and the higher the grade, the rarer they are. When you get to mint state 67 or 68, the numbers are extremely low, and that's where collectors start paying incredible sums. It might sound unbelievable, but in this pristine state, some 2015 nickels have reached values between $42,000 and $92,000 at auction. That's the power of perfection in coin collecting. Then there are errors, the beautiful mistakes of minting that collectors crave. Even in our modern age of advanced technology, mistakes still happen. A double-die error, where the date or lettering looks duplicated, can send collectors into a frenzy. An off-center strike, where Jefferson's portrait or Monticello is shifted awkwardly, leaves part of the coin blank and creates a one-of-a-kind piece. There are also wrong planchet errors, where a nickel might accidentally be struck on a smaller dime blank or even a copper penny blank, making it instantly rare. These errors aren't supposed to exist, but that's what makes them so desirable. They capture the imperfections of the minting process and transform an ordinary coin into something collectors will pay a fortune to own. Imagine being at a coin auction. The auctioneer holds up a flawless 2015 nickel, certified at an incredibly high grade. At first, the bidding starts slow, hundreds of dollars, maybe 1,000. But then the collectors in the room realize what they're looking at. Hands start flying, paddles are raised, and the numbers climb higher and higher. 10,000, 20,000, then into the tens of thousands. The energy shifts, the tension builds, and by the time the gavel slams down, the winning bid has reached an unbelievable figure, anywhere from $42,000 to $92,000. That moment, when everyone in the room realizes a simple nickel has just sold for a life-changing sum, is what makes this hobby so exciting. What makes the 2015 nickel especially fascinating is how recent it is. We often think of rare coins as being old, something from the 1800s or early 1900s, tucked away in dusty collections or museums. But this coin proves that even in the modern era, treasures can be hiding in plain sight. You don't have to dig through ancient history to find value. You might just need to look at the change in your pocket a little more closely. That accessibility makes the 2015 nickel thrilling. Anyone, anywhere, could stumble across one of these valuable coins without even realizing it. Think about it. A teenager sorting through a jar of coins to roll up for the bank might notice a shiny 2015 nickel that looks just a little sharper than the others. They put it aside, curious, and later discover it's a top-grade rarity worth tens of thousands. Or maybe someone inherits a collection from a grandparent. At first, they assume the modern coins in the set aren't worth much, but tucked inside is a 2015 nickel with a spectacular error. After getting it appraised, they learn it's worth more than they ever dreamed. $42,000, $60,000, maybe as much as $92,000. These stories aren't just fantasy, they happen more often than you think, and they're what keep collectors searching. Coin collecting is about more than just money. It's about history, about connection, about finding beauty in the small details. The 2015 nickel represents a piece of America at the start of a new decade, a time of change and progress. Jefferson's portrait on the obverse, with its sharp, modern lines, ties the coin to one of the nation's greatest thinkers and leaders. Monticello on the reverse anchors it in tradition, reminding us of the foundations on which the country was built. To hold a rare example of this coin is to hold both history and possibility in your hands. But the true magic lies in the hunt. Every time you get change at the store, every time you roll up coins from your jar, you have the chance to find something extraordinary. That's what makes this hobby addictive, the idea that the next coin you look at could be the one. And when the stakes are this high, when a single nickel can be worth between $42,000 and $92,000, the excitement is impossible to ignore. Collectors know the thrill well. They've spent hours searching through rolls of nickels from the bank, poring over them with magnifying glasses and bright lights, hoping to find the one that stands out. And when they do, it's like striking gold. The heart races, the imagination runs wild, and the possibilities feel endless. That's the feeling that keeps this community alive and growing. So the next time you see a 2015 nickel, don't just dismiss it as change. Take a closer look. Check the details. Examine the surfaces. Because while most nickels from that year are worth only 5 cents, a rare few could change your life. Imagine the shock of realizing that the coin sitting in your pocket isn't just spare change. It's a hidden treasure, one worth up to $92,000. The lesson here is simple. Always pay attention. Because the world of coins is full of surprises, and treasures don't always come in the form of gold bars or ancient artifacts. Sometimes, they come in the shape of a humble 5-cent piece, minted in 2015, waiting for someone curious enough to notice its true worth. And who knows, that someone could be you.